I have worked security for men who required it for 17 years, and I have kept two rules that have served me well. I do not form opinions about the people I protect, and I do not form opinions about the people who come into their orbit. You watch, you assess for threat, you hold the line. That is the work. I broke both rules watching Sophia Reyes. Not at once, gradually, the way a man breaks a rule he has been keeping for a long time, when the reason he made the rule starts to feel less convincing than the reason he is breaking it. She had been coming to the Marlowe building for 6 weeks before I noticed anything beyond the standard assessment. Female, mid-20s, dark hair, visitor badge, cleared by medical scheduling, no threat profile. She was a contract visiting nurse assigned to Mr. Calvino's mother, who was 91 and lived on the building's 3rd floor in an apartment that was quiet and warm, and nothing like the floors above and below it. Mrs. Calvino, Elena, the old woman preferred, had been declining for 2 years with the particular slow patience that very old people sometimes have about the thing that is happening to them. She had nurses come and go on rotation. She had an excellent regular nurse, Maria, who was reliable and professional and whom Elena liked. Sophia was a substitution, filling a 4-week gap while Maria recovered from a broken wrist. I watched visitors to Elena's floor as part of my rotation. The work is mostly observation. What I observed in the first week was nothing out of the ordinary. Sophia arrived, signed in, went upstairs, stayed her hour, came back down. Standard protocol, no deviations. What I observed in the second week was that she started arriving 7 minutes early. Not to be noticed, she didn't announce it. She just appeared at the sign-in desk at 9:53 instead of 10. And when I checked the visitor log, I saw that the same thing had happened 3 times the previous week. 7 minutes early every time. I noted this. I filed it. In the 4th week, I was reassigned temporarily to the 3rd floor rotation when one of the other guards pulled a shift for a private event. I was stationed in the corridor near Elena's apartment for 3 afternoons. The first afternoon, I understood why Sophia was arriving 7 minutes early. She was reading to her. Elena had apparently mentioned at some point in the first week that she liked to have things read aloud, a habit from before her eyes had gotten difficult and Sophia had begun bringing a book with her and reading the last 7 minutes before her shift officially started, while Elena's morning tea was still warm. They were working through a novel about a woman who traveled alone in the 1920s, a chapter at a time. Elena made comments about the protagonist's decisions. Sophia had opinions about them too. They disagreed pleasantly about whether the protagonist's choice in Chapter 11 was reasonable under the circumstances. I watched this from the corridor, and I kept my face exactly as it was required to be kept, which was neutral, and I filed the observation with the others. What I filed privately in the part of the job that does not go in reports. A 24-year-old substitute nurse, unpaid for the extra 7 minutes, who had noticed that a 91-year-old woman liked to be read to and had simply begun doing it. Without being asked and without telling anyone, Mr. Calvino came to visit his mother on the Tuesday of the 5th week. He visited when he could, not as often as he would have liked, I think, but his world had the kind of weight that does not distribute evenly. He would come on a Tuesday or a Thursday and sit with Elena for an hour, and they would talk about things I did not need to hear, and I would stand in the corridor and watch the floor. He arrived on that Tuesday at 2:15. Sophia's shift ended at 2. She was still there when he arrived. She was not there officially. Her visitor badge was off clock. She had stayed as far as I could determine from the corridor because Elena had been having a difficult afternoon, not medically, in the way of 91-year-old difficult afternoons that are more about the weight of being 91 than about any specific symptom, and Sophia had stayed past her shift end, unpaid, just to sit. Calvino stopped in the doorway of his mother's apartment and saw the two of them, his mother in the chair by the window, Sophia in the chair beside her, the book open on Sophia's lap, neither of them talking, just sitting in the particular comfortable quiet that takes some time to earn. He stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he stepped back into the corridor. He looked at me. He said quietly, not a question, a statement, "She does this." I said, "She does this." He was quiet for a moment. He said, "Does she know who I am?" I said, "She knows you're Mrs. Calvino's son. She knows you're the building's primary occupant." "I don't believe she knows more than that." He was quiet for another moment. Then he said, "Don't tell her." I said, "Understood." He told her himself in November, 3 months after she had finished the 4-week substitution and Maria had returned, and Sophia had gone back to her other rotation. He had asked the scheduling service through an intermediary whether Sophia Reyes was available for a supplemental visiting assignment at the Marlowe building. He had asked this 4 times before the scheduling service produced a date when she was available. He had waited patiently for the available date, which I found notable, given that waiting patiently is not generally a characteristic I would have assigned to him. She arrived in November with her badge and her book, a different book, a new one. She had apparently thought about what Elena might prefer for the next stretch, and she signed in at the desk and she went upstairs. He was on the 3rd floor. She turned the corner and saw him and stopped. He said, "I owe you something," she said. I was filling a substitution." "You don't owe me anything," he said. "You read to my mother for 7 minutes before every shift, unpaid, for 4 weeks, because she mentioned once that she liked to be read to." She was very still. He said, "And you stayed past your shift on a Tuesday in October because she was having a hard afternoon." She said quietly, "She's a wonderful person." He said, "Yes, she is." He paused for a moment. Then he said the word that I have replayed, over the years, more times than I replayed most other things I have been present for. He said, "Stay," not as a directive, as a request, a careful, deliberate request, with everything that the word cost him in it. She looked at him for a long time, then she said, "Is that what your mother wants, or what you want?" He said, "Both." She thought about it. She said, "I'll have to finish what we're reading first. We're on chapter 22, and she has opinions about the ending." He said, "We have time." They were married the following April. Elena was there, in the chair they brought for her, wrapped in the shawl Sophia had given her in December. She had opinions about the ceremony as well. I stood at the back of the room doing the work, which was watching the room and holding the line. It was, I will say privately and only once, the best room I have ever watched.